When you're getting started on a new project, it can be really easy to get very disorganized. So in this particular video, I'm gonna cover my personal organization best practices for your project folder system. Now, I've tried lots and lots of different variations of this over the years, and I've been refining it. And after more than a decade, this is the folder structure of all folder structures for my design projects. And I want to share it with you because I would love for you to adopt this and to start using it. It'll just make your life much easier. So let's take a look. All right, we've got our fictional client here, Nike, and I'm going to open this folder. This is actually inside of Dropbox, which I use for all of my client projects. So I've got a folder called clients, and then all of my clients are inside of there. Just for clarity's purposes, I'm just showing this one particular folder. So first of all, I always separate contracts and projects up front because oftentimes I will need to invite other designers or other people into the actual design files, and I don't really want people to have access to the contracts in addition to the design file. First of all, contracts, I do have a markdown version of a master service agreement that I use IA Writer for. I'm gonna include that in the examples and then I export that as a PDF. So all of the contracts go inside of there, whether it's subcontractor agreements, non-disclosure agreements, anything legal document related, I put it in the contracts folder. But in the projects folder, a lot of times there is only one project. I might just be doing one app for one client, but oftentimes there can be multiple projects like an iOS app or a marketing website or a logo. So I like to keep those separate projects at the high level. And for example, if we were gonna do a logo for them or a website, we would put that in the projects folder as well. So then we would have two different projects. So inside of the project folder, I named that project the iOS app. This always stays the same inside the project. Assets, design, and review. Prototype is optional. This could be code, or it could be the build, or really anything else. That is kind of the optional folder. Assets, design, and review are the main folders. So in the assets folder, I put everything that is an asset for the project. So if it's something the client sent me, or if it's an icon set, or if they're old designs that they sent, there could be photos, there could be reference material. I treat this as kind of like a semi-organized junk drawer. And really, you could put notes in here. So a lot of times I'll have like a notes file inside of the assets, and I might just have text documents or just little things that I've jotted down. A lot of times I use Notion now for notes, so not as common for me to use that, but everyone's different. So put all of your assets inside of this folder. Next, we have our design folder at the top level. And this is where I would save my sketch files or my studio or XD files. If I'm doing maybe like even a Figma file, sometimes I will export a Figma document or a .fig file and put it inside of this folder just for safekeeping. But inside of each one of these design project files, so for Sketch, for example, I would put my Sketch document inside of here. So for the project file name, I always put the client name, then the project name and my initials and the version of the file that I'm working on. And the reason I do that is because sometimes you have other designers working. I encourage them to put their initials and increase the version number each time you save a new copy of the file. And if there's any old files, never throw them away and just put them in an archive folder like this. So you can see I've got version 0.1 in here and version 0.2 right there. So this one might be slightly different, but I can still access it. I'm not throwing it away. And now I've got a new version inside of here. The version numbers aren't really that important to have like a very strict guideline, but typically if I'm doing like my first version, I'll do 0-1. And once I get ready to share it with a client, it might become 0.2 or maybe even change it to 1.0 at that point. It's just a way for you to keep track of your own design changes in more of an informal kind of way. The prototype folder would really just be any specific prototype or code related thing that you would put in here. Sometimes this might live on GitHub, so you might not always have it. So I'm going to just delete it out of here just because these are the 3 main folders. And the review folder is really important. This is going to be where I always put exported design files. So in this one, I always use the naming convention, year, month, date, and then a small note of what is on that folder. So in this example, I've got it just this one file, and it is this one artboard that I've exported. Typically when I export the files, I always number them sequentially that I would in the order that I would want someone to look at them. So if I had 10 design files and they were all named random artboards, I would either name them 0 through 10 or 1 through 10, whatever, and then have them exported into this review folder. That way it just makes it really easy for someone to go through and sequentially look through those individual files. And I would also never attach design documents in an email. If I was going to send a client, I would always just right click this folder name here, click copy Dropbox link, and then in my email or my message, I would say, hey, here's the stuff, copy and paste that link. That way, if I left a document out or if I wanted to make a quick change, I could always just go and add stuff to that folder. So I don't link directly to an image. I link to the top level folder. That way I can always change what's in that folder if I realize that I forgot something. And as I'm doing more and more designs, I might break the larger file into feature sets. So I might have Nike iOS app sign up for that one. And then I might have activity feed. And that might be the way that I structure my design files. And then the same thing in the review folder. If I'm saving out folders, saving out files, then let's say it's on Halloween, and these are the activity screens. And I would make sure that that goes in the review folder. And then I just have a very organized version of basically every file in the system. And every single thing has a place, and it's just really easy to keep track of everything, to keep everything organized. So for homework, I would suggest that you adopt this folder structure. Instead of Nike, use Shift Nudge and create projects. And every time you have a homework project, create that top level folder, and then you have your design, your assets, and review, and you can save individual projects into this folder structure and just keep everything organized. As you progress through the course, you'll have a very, very succinct and structured way to manage everything, to access everything later, and to save out and export everything. So it's just a great way to keep your digital life organized. And this is what I continue to do for every new project that I work on. So I encourage you to do the same.